Okay, so the question becomes is, what is the margin that we can use on a Stanley 342 pivot? The client wants to use the pivot in an unusual fashion. This is when the door is closed. This is when the door is at 180 degree. What they're not showing you is what this looks like when the door is at, when the pivot is at a 90 degree position. So let's take a look and see what that would kind of look like. So basically, from a top sort of perspective, just making a crude sketch. That's awful. That's our jamb. Forget about it. It's what you're getting. Here's our vertical axis of pivoting, right here. Okay. The rest of the pivot looks like this. Okay. So what the client wants to do is install this to the jamb. This is going to be the door. The door is going to reside here. It's a 3/4 inch thick door. It's going to be 30 inch wide or thereabouts. So the door is going to reside here. It's only 3/4 thick. Now, because the pivoting axis is over here, when this goes to open in this direction, this is just going to pull completely away from the jamb. The question becomes is what happens on the other side? And what sort of margin do you need on the other side? And that's where AutoCAD comes in. So what we have here is we have our drawing. And I have my pivot point, which happens to be 2 1/8 inch from the jamb, and then 1 7/8 from the back leaf, from here to our center point. So that is the actual hardware. And I've got a door drawn here. And as I rotate the door, you can see nothing happens at all. The door is not going to go in, it's going to swing out. So the question becomes is what happens on the opposite side? And I have the margin set between the door and the frame right now at 1/4 inch. And you'd be easily, without getting in there and you know, measuring that. I mean, it's 3/16 is going to be no problem at all. So the question becomes is what margin are you going to hold over here? And I have this area set here between the jamb and the door at 1/4 inch. So the margin between the jamb. And I basically have that on each side. So you can easily make it 3/16. You know, there should be no problem making it 1/8 of an inch. You can see that you've got plenty of margin there. And quite frankly, if you were to bevel the door, you'd be able to even take it to 1/8 of an inch. So there's nothing unusual about this application. I don't see any trouble with it. The only issue, though, I think is going to be that this center point here, that's where your pivot hardware is going to be. So this pivot is going to occupy all of this space. Come in here, your pivot's going to come down back to here, so your hardware is going to be quite obvious. It's going to be all in this area. And if I were to do just simply a quick drawing of that, get rid of these dimension line. Well, let's leave the center point. So if we were to just sketch something really quick with a polyline, you know, that pivot's going to look something like and I am not doing this to scale at all. I'm just making a polyline to put some reference here. So your hardware is going to look like this to a certain extent, and that center point is going to be right here. So it isn't really going to be too much of a big deal, provided that look is okay. You're not going to see much of it at all. You sure won't see the back side of any of this here. You know, you are going to see. Imagine this rotated 90-degree counterclockwise. You're going to see the face of, well, this is the wrong hand compared to how we're drawing it, but you're going to see the face of all of this. All of this assembly, you'll see the face. It's not too much hardware, though. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. So that is the answer on what sort of margin you're going to need without getting too technical. 1/8 of an inch would be a minimum, and I can give you an absolute value, but I know that this client's request does not require an absolute value. I think what the client is simply trying to do is make sure that there's not a fatal flaw in the design of using this 342. If you have any questions on the Stanley 342 pivot and how to use it, please feel free to reach out to us, and thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.